Welcome to everyone just joining in. We're going to start the presentation here. Let me start sharing my screen. As I mentioned, this topic today we're going to talk about is how to learn SEO at home, right? Because we're not going out. Not that you can't learn SEO outside the office. Not that you probably weren't going to learn SEO at home to begin with. But here are some ideas of how you can learn SEO at home. I'm excited to share them with you today in this presentation. A couple things. Number one, I want to say right now that there are lots of exciting opportunities for optimization specialists, right? If you look at a search engine optimization person or an SEO person, there are tons of opportunities right now, not just for search engine optimization, but also optimizing content and optimizing strategies for platforms that, especially these video heavy platforms like Instagram and the new TikTok and YouTube and Facebook. Having an optimization mindset is key. And this same optimization mindset I want to try to sort of teach you today that applies to search engine strategy very much applies to other platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. It's a matter of how to create content and how to sort of optimize the content you create in a way that helps people find what you have to offer. And that's definitely what I want to walk you through today. Obviously, we live in a video-driven world, and video-driven content is great. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram are ones that I enjoy. Actually, I don't use TikTok that much, but and I probably should. My wife does, but it's ultimately a really fun thing to do. I'm more of a YouTube, Facebook kind of guy, but they're great platforms. But one thing I want to point out from a marketing strategy is that these platforms, at the end of the day, right now, they are just another blanket type advertising thing. No different than buying ads on a TV or buying a billboard on the highway, right? You can create a viral video and it could get a lot of views, but that doesn't mean the people who see that are going to buy your products or services. You could spend a ton of time and spend a ton of money in either Instagram ads or Facebook ads, or you just happen to make it with the right viral video and it gets seen by a lot of people. But this is just it's an important part of the marketing equation, as we'll talk about in a second. But it's just advertising. It's not contextual SEO driven marketing that we're going to talk about a little bit in this thing. What's really on the rise and what's really interesting from a search engine optimization perspective or a search mindset, as I'm trying to explain to you guys today, is platforms like Alexa, Siri, and voice search are really the ones that we need to look at. People are more and more, they're not typing in their questions or asking their questions. They're asking, I hate to say it out loud because all my devices are going to start to chime up. They're going to, Siri's going to ask me what to do. And that's great. We're using our voice to look for searches. This is really where I think you need to invest your time in research into looking at voice platforms right now, at least how you can get your brands or how to get other people's brands into these platforms in a way that makes sense. And a lot of it comes down to just really optimizing your content for search, right? And really, it's not that much different than what we've been doing in the past. It just may be a little bit different because we're using words out of our voice versus what we're typing in. It's kind of like if you write a book, you don't necessarily write a book in the way you speak. You write a book in a little bit different tone and voice than what you would if you were to just talk it out loud. It's sort of similar to search engine optimization. So let's see here. SEO in 2021. As you all know, Google is the king of search. And there's no fighting me on this one. I just pulled the global stats for Google, and ultimately they have 92.26% of the market share of search in September of 2020, which is this month, right? Or last month. So Bing has 2%, Yahoo has 1.9%, Badoo and DuckDuckGo and Yandex take up the rest. Those are, well, Badoo and Yandex are overseas searches. But basically, when I talk about search engine optimization, I talk about optimizing my content for Google search. It's not that I don't submit my sites to Bing or I don't submit my sites to Yahoo, but at the end of the day, we're usually creating a strategy around Google because Google has the most market share for SEO, right? And generally speaking, what we do for Google generally applies to the other two platforms as well. So that usually helps, but I'm not going to do like a Yahoo specific SEO campaign anymore unless it was a huge client that needed some type of specific thing, right? Most likely, most of us are working with clients where if you were to get 1% of Google searches for your client, you'd be doing great, right? And that's the kind of thing that I focus on. And I want to mention too, in 2021, I mean, I'm looking ahead a little bit to next year. Obviously, it's already October of 2020. SEO is more important than ever, more than important than ever, basically due to the competition. I mean, one thing that I have to say, optimizing websites 10 years ago was a lot easier because there wasn't as much competition, right? Today, it's a little bit different because we have a lot more competition. We have a lot more people who are hustling SEO as a service. So a lot more businesses are doing SEO. And that's one thing that makes it a little bit harder to do today, but not necessarily impossible. SEO is not just free traffic anymore. And I'm the first to say that, I have a lot of clients who come to me and say, hey, I need to do SEO to get some free traffic from keyword searches like, gyms near me, like, because there are maybe a gym, a fitness center. That's great, but that's a very competitive term, and it's extremely difficult just to get free traffic today by just doing one marketing strategy. SEO is one marketing strategy out of an entire sort of like, toolbox of tools that you can work from. And that's one thing I always try to explain, that yes, SEO is important, but SEO is only one of many things that we need to do in order to really optimize your brand online. And as I mentioned, it's part of a larger strategy. So for those of you who hang with me, some of you on this webinar might be familiar with this. I have a system that I've created called the digital acquisition cycle. And in this digital acquisition cycle, it is a system of 5 components that go into every type of marketing strategy. And that begins with awareness, right? We have to do things that generate awareness for who we are and that we exist. We have to build consideration, meaning we have to do things that are going to help people decide that they want to buy or purchase our product. We have to get them to do that purchase. We have to have them make that what's called a conversion, right? We have to convert them from one sort of side of the funnel to the other. And then we have to do things to retain them, and we have to do things to help them, get them to promote our brand for us, right? Because if we get them to promote our brand for us, then we get to take that opportunity to leverage free marketing that way, or free word of mouth. Now, if you look at this, it all nicely fits into sort of a infinite loop, if you will. And this is really what I call the digital acquisition cycle. So if we start with awareness, we start the beginning of the top of funnel with awareness. These are all the different things we can do in order to generate visibility and publicity for our business, right? And I want you to note, in this particular presentation, we're focusing on SEO, or content marketing, right? Those are the kind of areas that we're focusing on: creating content, optimizing content, and getting it onto your website. Now, obviously, we could, if you look at the top of the list, publicity and radio, TV ads will definitely generate awareness. I mean, we could put a billboard on the side of the highway, and that's going to generate awareness that we exist and our brand happens. But what's the problem with those types of advertising? One, they're costly and hard to update. And two, yes, they're going to reach a lot of people. I might be able to reach everyone on the Dan Ryan Expressway who drives every morning to work, although not a lot of people doing that right now, but everyone who drives to work. But the problem is, only maybe 1 out of 50 of those people might actually have a desire or a need for the product or service that I offer. Whereas if you look at more down to the bottom, right next to consideration, if you look at search engine optimization, or SEO, it's right by consideration, because at the end of the day, people who are searching for products and services that you offer, for example, I'm looking for a real estate agent, or I'm looking for a plumber, or I need a plumber, I need an HVAC guy, right? These people are searching for products and services that they need, not driving on the highway thinking, oh yeah, there's a plumber I might want in the future, but I don't have a leaky faucet, so why would I need it, right? So SEO is such an important thing, and it's almost in a category of its own in a lot of ways. It's capturing people who are searching and looking for products and services that you happen to offer, right? And they're the closest to consideration as possible. That's why I like to focus a lot on SEO as an important part of an overall strategy. That doesn't mean I wouldn't do influencer marketing, or it doesn't mean I want to do some type of radio or TV ad if the budget is available. But one thing I do not want to do is SEO. Every website needs to have a baseline SEO strategy, even if it's just basically so you show up on your own branded terms. Like, for example, if I'm Googling someone's Googling for my business, for example, Content Academy, I want them to show up when someone searches for Content Academy or Content Academy Chicago or whatever, so definitely doing some on-page or on-work SEO, on-page SEO optimization to get at least your branded search terms done. Then finally, once we get them onto your website, they fall into consideration, just to keep going around this loop. And we have to do more things to get them to get to that purchase, right? To make that conversion, to get them to enter their information, to get them to make a lead request, to get them to call us for an opportunity to do business with them. Now, keep in mind, a lot of the stuff that's in consideration, user experience testing, content optimization, content creation, conversion optimization or conversion copy, that is generally speaking what an SEO person or a content strategist would help people do, right? A lot of what comes into consideration is also part of the SEO, you know, SEO person's job, in my opinion. So this is all very important part of an overall marketing equation. And of course, once we have them on the site, or once we have them into our database as a customer, then we can continue to do more marketing objectives to reach them and to get them to continue to buy more products and services from us, or become an advocate to refer more people to them. So we essentially reduce the cost per acquisition, what per client, per customer. Because if you think about it, if you spend money to acquire people in the blue side or the cold side, then if you get those people that you're already working with to refer people to you, right, then the cost per acquisition to acquire that first customer decreases by 50% each time. At the end of the day, it's good to look at how you can get them retained and get them in there. But as you'll note, as my point to this is that SEO is a really important part of this entire process, and it should never be overlooked in terms of an overall marketing campaign for a business or a client. Now, how can you sharpen your toolbox? Let's say you want to get into SEO, or you want to do some more of it for your own website. I want to share some tips on how you can sharpen your toolbox. Number one, with SEO and content creation and all the good stuff, I persist until I succeed. Unfortunately, I say this to myself every day. SEO, there is no golden rule book of SEO. Google, the search engine giant, puts out sort of some ideas for how you can do SEO. But at the end of the day, there is not, Google doesn't say if you do X, you're going to get YZ. Google can make recommendations, and they put out lots of great content and what you can and can't do as a webmaster, but they don't say if you do X, you're going to get YZ. So you have to keep doing experiments or projects or failing forward until you find the right aspect of getting into what I call an optimization mindset, right? How are you optimizing this web property, or how are you optimizing this web app or social media platform to work to your advantage? And that's why I want you to learn how to build an optimization mindset. Number one, these are all the different things you can do in the SEO world, right? One is your overall website content strategy. How is your website organized? How is your website speaking to people? What's the copy on your website look like, and all that stuff? And then on your website, you're actually like on a web page, and we'll look at this in a second, we actually can do some on-page SEO, right? So optimizing the keyword saturation and optimizing how the copy works, and how making sure that the HTML tags of your website are optimized for SEO, making sure the alt tags are optimized, making sure your images have alt tags, and those alt tags have your keywords possibly included in a way that makes sense for your overall strategy. These are some areas that you can look at working, getting more information on marketing and promotion. Obviously, if you're going to put web pages out there, it's not enough just to publish a post, right? You're going to have to market and publish that content among all your social media platforms, among all your paid platforms, if possible, among your current web pages that exist. Like, how are you going to promote the content you create? And then finally, the technical SEO, what I like to call technical SEO, is your website fast? Does it work on mobile devices? Is the code optimized? Is there any way that you can reduce bloat of stuff on your website to make sure the page is optimally working? There's no HTML errors. There's no server errors. There's no under the hood stuff that's not working correctly to make sure that SEO and other search engines can properly index your content. So these are definitely a lot of different areas. If you were to, so I'm starting to see people sort of specialize in these areas. Some people specialize in on-page SEO. Some people specialize in sort of the off-page or the under the hood technical SEO. Some people specialize in link building and marketing promotion, that kind of thing. So that's a lot to swallow at once. You can't really say I'm going to learn all of this in one sitting, because at the end of the day, a lot of these skills come from doing and making mistakes and learning what not to do, unfortunately. So basically and one thing is when you start to do a little bit, you start to understand what works, what doesn't work, and why you're doing what you're doing. So how do you do all that? Hey, look, I hate to say, you just got to do it. Unfortunately, there's not a magic potion. There's not a magic serum that's going to help you learn SEO overnight. But some of my strategies I have sort of 3 rules on this. One, get a client, any client, really get a client to pay you to do it if possible, or get a client you do it pro bono. But at the end of the day, get someone that has a product or has a service and needs some SEO and offer to do it for them, or better yet, have them pay you to do it somehow. But, this is definitely some ways of getting into the SEO game. The best way you can is to have somebody pay you to do it. The next thing is start a business or start a project, or any business for that matter, that can help you do your own thing. I know a lot of ways that I learned SEO is that I always have my own business and my own projects I was working on to learn how to do a lot of this SEO stuff. For example, in 2008, I started a country music blog, and on that country music blog, it was my job to sort of, it wasn't necessarily something I made a ton of money doing, but I built a community around it, and I learned a lot of great SEO optimization tactics in order to get people to find my website and find my offering. And that was a great way to get into the business. It's what I still sort of the foundation of the SEO strategy I use today. And ultimately, it's something that helped lead me to learning how to sharpen my SEO saw, if you will, to get to where I want to go. And then finally, get a mentor, but not just any mentor. Unlike the other two where I say get any business or any client, you find a mentor that can help you, someone who's maybe been on the road ahead of you, who can help you tell you what does work and what doesn't work, right? Because if you can start with a benchmark where you know what not to do, then at least you can focus on what does work and keep on going from there. All right, so basically 3 things here, and then we're going to get into some demos. One thing you got to do as an SEO person is you have to research and compare and see what other people are doing and what you're not doing. And that's as simple as doing some Google searches and seeing what searches who shows up in what searches, right? And how their website look. Does their website look better than yours, or does their website look worse than yours, right? And how much copy do they have on the website? Is there a lot of words on the website? Is there a lot of video? Like, what's the difference between your site and their site? Just some natural things you might inherently pick up. But most importantly, to get into Google optimization, there's three core products that Google offers for search, right? And the first one is Google Analytics. And Google Analytics is a data tracking tool that lets you sort of see how much traffic you have on your website, and seeing how much traffic you have on your website and seeing where they came from and all that kind of stuff. In my opinion, Google Analytics is an important tool, but it's not critical in my opinion. I actually think it's one of the ones that it's nice. It's a nice to have, but it's not super urgent for me. There's lots of people who leverage it, especially for larger sites. It's important, but in my opinion, the more important ones are the Google Search Console and then Google Ads. So Google Search Console and Google Ads are completely unrelated, but they are very much related on a bigger picture strategy. So Google Ads is where you could buy ads in search terms, and it's completely unrelated to organic SEO. I'm going to tell you that right now. It has nothing to do with organic SEO. But what it does have is it helps you optimize your website for conversions, right? So if you're paying for traffic to come to your website, you're going to make sure that you're doing whatever you can to make sure that those people who come to your website are converting into a purchase, right? Or converting into your desired action. And sometimes when you're buying some ads, you get that data, you get that feedback much quicker than you would if you were going to you get the data, you get that feedback much quicker when you're buying ads than if you're doing with SEO. SEO is a long-term game, right? Google Ads, you could start getting traffic to your website within 24 hours. Right. And once you get that traffic, you can start to make decisions about how to optimize your content and your funnel immediately, right? Based on how people interact with your website. So although Google Ads is not related to organic traffic, it forces you to optimize your website, and it forces you to optimize your website quickly. Now, if you don't have the budget for ads, then obviously really where you're going to spend time is in Google search or Google Search Console. So let's go ahead and do it. Let me show you some Search Console stuff here. I got to just pull up the link. Yes, good point, Ken. Thank you for putting that. AdWords also helps you identify the value of certain keywords. And I totally agree, because if you go ahead and you start, let's just say you want to optimize for Chicago dentist, and you think that no matter what, you think that's the best search term for your business because you're a dentist office, that may not be the best search term for your business. And AdWords will let you find that out, because one, you can see how much people are willing to bid on that term. let's just say Chicago dentist is a $15 a click term, right? Which is very expensive. But just because you pay 15 bucks doesn't mean a client who comes from that search term is going to become a client on your website. So it really helps you sort of evaluate what short-term and what long-term keywords are most valuable for your business. But one thing I like in terms of organic SEO is Google Search Console. And I've got the Content Academy website up here. And Search Console is a tool that helps webmasters understand their status of their website within the search index. Okay. And everything from, urgent reports related to your site's been hacked to security actions that Google is taking on your website can be found in Search Console. And what you do is when you set it, you go to search like google.com, you submit your site, you have to verify that you have access to the website, and then it'll start to collect data from the Search Console perspective. And now what I like mostly about Search Console is the data that it provides. So this is the overview of my website's performance in Search Console. And what I want to do is actually click on performance. This is the performance. And on here, it gives me an idea of what search queries my website is showing up in and how many clicks we received from these impressions and how many impressions that they were showed. For example, this is interesting. What is a UX content strategist? We appeared 49 times over the last 3 months, but only 7 of those people clicked. So that could be, to me, an indicator that we maybe need to look at that meta tag and meta description to make sure that what we have there is showing up properly and it's most enticing to visitors. Now, meta tag and a meta description is, let's say if we go to site.contentacademy.com, a meta tag is a meta title is the title that shows up. Here's a meta title, and a meta tag is the description, or meta description, I'm sorry, is what shows up here. Now, these are 2 pieces of content that we submit to Google when we ask Google to use this meta title and meta description for our pages and our posts. And we can optimize this throughout our entire website, right? So for example, the collab page has its own meta title and meta description versus the homepage. And we can go through our entire website and make meta titles and meta descriptions for our every page and every post on our website. That doesn't mean Google is going to use those meta titles and meta descriptions, but we can at least supply Google with what we think is best. And in here, we can see where our queries are showing up and how to better optimize them. Okay, so another tool I like with this is average position. With Google Search Console, I can also see our average position and where we stand. Learn Content Academy, which is not a really ideal term, but hey, people are clicking on it. We actually are position 1.1. So we're like the number 1 position for Learn Content Academy. What is a UX content strategist? We're actually position number 4, right? So we can go through this and I can actually sort these by position. And I can kind of start to see where we start to, like where we get to, like when we get to like page 10 or we're position number 10. So like, for example, how to become a content strategist. This would be a very, very good term for us to be number 1 or number 2 in, right? Because there's quite a few impressions, but we're not getting enough clicks. We need to make more content for this term and to get higher on the webpage, or we need to optimize our meta titles and meta descriptions on the content that we do have to try to increase our rank on these pages. So we get from position number 13 to at least position number 4 or number 5, if not position number 1 or number 2. This is where a SEO strategist would help give a content strategist some ideas of what content we need to create. We need to create more content around this keyword or this query, or we need to optimize the content that we have. And that's definitely something that I would recommend doing, is going through Search Console and figuring out where do you stand, and ultimately where are your best content opportunities. I would flag this in maybe like an Excel sheet as an opportunity. Excuse me. I would look at Digital Content Marketing Academy is not our brand, but if we could get a little bit higher, that might not be bad. Also, I want to sort by impressions, because this is where the most traffic is. content strategist, we are only position number 42 for content strategists. We definitely have some opportunities that we need to look at there. UX content strategist, there's 82, 117 impressions. People are searching for this. Like, this is definitely stuff that people are looking for. So I need to spend more time creating content around these terms and try to get our rank up higher. And you'll ask, how do you do that? Well, that's where, as I mentioned, you have to create better content. You have to create more content, create more pages, create more blog posts, and optimize the meta titles and meta descriptions and keyword saturation for the pages and posts that you have created. All right, let me check the questions here. What tool do I use to investigate search volume by keywords? Lots of tools. This is one, this tool here. Another tool that I use is called Keywords Everywhere, which I don't have enabled right now, but it's a Google Chrome tool, and I'll give you an idea of keywords that you can, the volume of keywords, as well as how many people use those keywords, as well as how many people potentially bid on them. Another keyword tool could be is the keyword. It's in the keyword planner for Google AdWords. There's a keyword planner in Google Ads, which you can use as well. It's, again, these are none of these are like black and white. Like, you want to make sure that you use these sort of as a benchmark to understand the volume and really looking at what people are actually searching for. The idea is that you want to get some search terms that have several hundred people a month looking for this, not like 10 people a month looking for it. If it's only 10 people a month, it may not be worth optimizing for. And there's probably not a lot of competition either, so it's not too hard to do that. Dave, let's see here, Dave. Can the query show if a social media drove people to the site? No, that would be in Google Analytics. Google Analytics will tell you if you got social media traffic to that particular page. So yeah, cool. Great questions, guys. Thank you. So optimizing your meta titles and meta descriptions is something that I do a lot of. I do it for clients. I do it for myself. I would love to show you guys my strategy for doing that. And in fact, I have a little bit of an offer for you for being on the show today. Basically, I have my virtual SEO WP Kickstart, where I'm going to talk about how to optimize core meta tags, meta descriptions, and alt image tags, as well as some tips for on-page optimization. I have a special rate that I'm going to offer you guys today. It's $99 from $150, and I'm going to do it on Tuesday, October 29th at 11:30 a.m. Central Time right here on Zoom. And if you use the promo code Learn From Home, or LFH 2020, you'll get the $99 rate, and it's it'll be an intimate session with me, and we'll cover all your SEO optimization questions and really try to make some strategy for you based on what you have. Hope, if you don't mind, could you plop the link into the chat room, please, so people can check it out? Oh, you already did. Thank you, Hope. And yeah, that's kind of some tools, some tips and strategies that I have for optimizing your site and doing SEO in 2021. Of course, we could spend all day talking about everything you could do in SEO, but I hope this was a little bit of a primer for getting started. And ultimately, if you match I don't want to make it sound too simple, but if you match your performance to your meta descriptions, the meta titles, that could put you in a really great opportunity. It could be the next best thing that happened for your business. You never know. If you can get into a couple of really good search terms for your services, that could really turn things around and hopefully make sure you rock out 2021.